Good morning, everybody. We're going to give everybody about a minute to log in, and then we'll kick off. And other presenters, if you can go on mute if you're not speaking, that would be good. I can hear construction going on somewhere. Right. Well, thank you. I hope everybody has joined. And I want to say good morning to everybody from sunny Cambridge in the UK. This is a webinar entitled A Convenient Way to Drive Loyalty. I'm Andy Kulina from Cheetah Digital. I'm your host at MC today. And I'm joined by some panelists who are going to introduce themselves and their companies. But first, let me just give you a little bit of background on this presentation. So we were talking amongst ourselves, we're people, the colleagues that work together, our companies have all had interactions and partnerships together about the changes in the retail market and the changes the way that we've shopped as consumers during this COVID period. And we were discussing specifically about the changes of our behavior in shopping in convenience stores and shopping locally. So we came up with some ideas. We thought this was an interesting enough topic to put a webinar together, and it has implications not just on convenience store and local shop trading, but I think there are some great takeaways for anyone who's selling to consumers about how behavior has changed in this period. Okay? So without further ado, let me introduce my panelists. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around one by one and actually let them introduce themselves, introduce their company. And then we're going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion. And then we're going to go into a presentation, so our thoughts on this topic. So let me first introduce my colleague, Nick Watson from Cheetah Digital. Nick, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. And thanks very much, Andy. My name's Nick Watson from Cheetah Digital. I'm actually the SVP of our experiences product here. The solution expert for the experiences product. At Cheetah Digital, we are a company who've been around for a good while, for over 20 years, actually divested out from Experian in 2017 to make the company Cheetah Digital you know today. 1,300 employees in 19 offices in 10 countries. And importantly, we invest over 25% of our revenue back into our product development. And we have a great range of organizations, brands, companies that we work with across a whole range of verticals, from retail through to FMCG, CPG, through to finance as well. Importantly, our tagline is that we're dedicated to marketers, and that's because we really are, as compared to some other companies who are offering similar software and technology to us, we are truly focused on delivering for the marketer to give them the best value that they can achieve with our software as well. Now, at Cheetah Digital, we have our customer engagement suite. That is a suite that is built on a platform, an engagement data platform, which I guess is like a customer data platform. So it's a single point of truth with a single customer view that is the data layer that then powers the rest of the products that we have today that can all stand alone as well. We have a personalization engine, journey orchestration, and then we have our experiences product, which I'm going to talk a little bit more today, which is a tool that allows marketers to collect first and zero-party data at scale. We have a cross-channel messaging tool as well to allow for email, SMS, push as well, and our best-in-class loyalty platform, which delivers data-driven loyalty programs as well. And it's worth saying that both our loyalty and our messaging products are Forrester leaders just recently as well. So 2 quick slides about Cheetah Experiences. It's a software as a service platform that allows a non-technical marketer to go ahead and build some type of engaging, interactive experience. So whether that's a sweepstake, a poll, an instant win, and the idea behind it is that it's collecting opted in preference and first-party data, and that's delivered on any channel, whether that's embedded in a website, as a standalone site, in an app, in a social network as well, or in an ad unit. And the idea is that you can quickly build these experiences, you can scale them, you can localize them, and it takes all the heavy lifting, the no-code way to be able to build these pages. We create a brand theme, and then the heavy lifting of the work that might need a developer normally is already done for you. You just add in your copy and your assets as well. And just one quick example that I guess brings to life what is an experience. This was one we ran for Shell in Malaysia. That was important for them to start to try and understand, very relevant for what we're talking about today, start to understand who it was that was actually coming and buying fuel from them. So they had a limit that in order to partake in this experience, you had to spend a minimum spend on petrol. And as you went to go and pay into the convenience store part of the service station, those that had spent over that were given a QR code to read on their phone and to take part in this reward experience, where they effectively had to answer some questions. And you can see from the slide here that this was in collaboration with some brands. And effectively, Shell wanted to do two things. They wanted to drive first-party data capture from those people visiting the service stations, but importantly, they wanted to understand a little bit more about some shopper habits and interest in some of the new ranges they had in store. So they asked some questions about the new ranges and whether they were interested in those, and then they gave them a chance to instantly win with a scratch reveal, some type of whether it was a snack or a coffee, but something that they could immediately redeem in the store there and then. So a really great example of kind of driving that physical to that digital with a gamification mechanic as well.
Thanks, Nick. That was really interesting. Let me introduce my my second panelist, or our second panelist. We've got Sina Saidinayer from Fidel. Sina, you want to say hello and introduce what Fidel does?
Of course. Hi, thanks very much for that, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name is Sina Saidinayer. I head up business development for EMEA at Fidel. I'll share my screen and tell you a bit about what we do and how we came about. So, there we go. Sure you can see my screen all right? Perfect. So we were born out in 2013 as a software as a service solution for SMEs, allowing them to capture data inputs in an offline environment and derive intelligence from it. However, identifying sort of transaction data and very valuable purchase information in an offline environment, in a brick and mortar environment, was very challenging, and it added a lot of friction to that buyer journey, such as staff training, asking for a loyalty card, and or for us to integrate in POS systems. It was almost an impossible task for us, or a challenge that we set to solve. So at the time, we went directly to the banks to access the data, and in a pre-PSD2 era, they were even less open-minded to share this transaction data with us. Next stop for us was to knock on the merchant acquirer's door in order to access the data, but it was too fragmented and they were too slow to move. So we went directly to the source as we saw it, which is Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. Long story short, it took us almost 3 years of research, negotiation, innovation, and development for us to realize that actually we've now built something that we could do with when we started this quest, and we've now built an API that allows us to harmonize 3 very complex and resource-intensive integration to 3 major payment networks in order to access the data. So today, what took us several years to build could be accessed by our clients in the afternoon, and they can launch sort of a program powered with real-time transaction data in a matter of weeks. So today we are a financial API acting as the catalyst to innovation, partnering up with likes of Cheetah in order to save people time and development resources and compliance resources and supercharge innovation. So I shall show you where we sit here. So Fidel is the buffer between the 3 payment networks and the client's application So it could be one easy integration rather than going and integrating with three very major integration that takes time, resources, and PCI compliance. So what's the payment data that we can access? So we can access the payment data such as payment network, the payment method, the status of the payment, if it's authorized, cleared, transaction amount, transaction dates, merchant location, longitude, latitude, merchant ID, currency, and there are sort of port codes and around 30 other payment or transaction objects that could be accessed via the Fidel's API. So I should show you a video. So British Airways is a client of ours. They use our API in order to allow their members to connect any payment card to the Be Executive Club app and therefore earn points every time they spend at participating retail locations. I shall show you a video and hopefully it will work, explaining how they do it. Oh. Perfect. Oh. There we go.
That's great, Sina.
And another use case for one of the clients of ours is a company called Myconix. They are using the Fidel transaction data to power their proposition for bids and town centers, allowing them to scale with multiple sort of independent merchants without having to integrate in POS systems or doing any complex integration at all. And the customer journey looks very much like this. There's a call to action. Someone links the card. Once the card is linked, any payment card is linked, they then go and spend at any participating merchant location and receive in real-time notification to sort of incentivize and reward the customer there and then. Another use case is the Into shopping center. Unfortunately, Into is not there anymore, but we are powering shopping center loyalty apps across UK, Scandinavia, North America, and going to launch some shopping center propositions in APAC shortly. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
That's great, Sina. Thanks a lot. And last but certainly not least, let me introduce our third panelist today, Mike Brinn from TLC Marketing. Mike, you want to say hello?
I do want to say hello, and it's great to speak to everyone today. Good morning to you all. I am the non-technical person on the phone call, so that means I'm going to make a mess of sharing my deck probably. But let's see if I can get this right. Can we see a nice picture of the world? So TLC Marketing, we've been around for 25 years plus. Really our reason for being is to help, our core reason for being is to help people with acquisition. So brands with acquisition. So if you're trying to acquire a customer and you want to give an experience rather than cashback or a discount, we're the company that can provide you with that. So in the beginning, it was TLC is not the traditional tender love and care. It was the travel and leisure company. And what we did in the early days.
Mike, can you hear me? Your screen's not sharing. We've lost your camera. All we see is your name now. I think the screen share hasn't worked correctly. Sorry to interrupt you.
Could you share your screen back, Andy, just to be safe? And
Yeah,
you want me to share, Andy? I've got it open. Shall I?
Yeah. You want to do that, Nick? That's great.
Yeah, so maybe just so I don't cause any more delays trying to do this.
That's fine. Just give Nick a nudge when you want him to change slides.
Okay. Well, apologize for that. Now you can see the lovely map of the world. So as I was saying, without repeating myself, we've been doing this for a long time. And as a business, we are in over 14 markets. Great thing about TLC is we learn from what we do with clients across all our different markets. We can skip to the next slide, if you don't mind. What's important for us is not just to say, here's a reward, and a reward could be anything from a cup of coffee. It could be a music streaming service. It could be a days out voucher. It could be anything that you really want. We're willing to create any rewards. Recently, we've done things as diverse as free haircuts because it fitted in with the brand. So what we're trying to do as a business is we're a full service marketing agency as well as a rewards agency. So we're looking at understanding what your brand and your product attributes are. So what is it you're trying to achieve as a brand? What's your consumer and passion needs? And when you put those together, you get the right content. And what's important for us is that we create this content. Either we find partners or we build individual networks. We flick on to the next slide. And our reward connects everyone. So those rewards are really anything you could imagine. And this is what brought me into the TLC world. I worked on loyalty programs for a long time in other industries and other companies. And what I always felt we never were able to achieve was give a really good value proposition to the customers. So customers, you understand from the data, and the likes of Cheetah and Fidel are amazing at getting insights into customers and building segmentation and understanding customer needs, and providing content and relevant product that you can buy in that company. What we're able to do is say, okay, let's understand now that we need to be loyal to that customer as well. We just don't want them to be loyal to purchasing our product, but we want to be loyal to them. So if we understand that their passion is around health and wellness, if their passion is around dining or travel, we create the reward content at a really great value price point that allows the customers to put that into their loyalty programs and not just have a situation where you're offering discount with points back. And one last slide from me, really, just to sum up some of the companies that we work with. And the last time we looked, we could see we worked with 60 of the top 100 brands in the world. Not all of them on a continuous basis. Some of them will be familiar to you. This is about convenience retailer. But you know, we've worked with all other different sectors, but I have a specific passion to retail, so I'll be glad to share some more of those ideas with you later as we go through the presentation.
Great. Okay. Nick, you want to stop share for a second? Cool. So you might be able to see where this grand plan is all coming together, because if you followed along, we've really got the three key pieces of any customer journey. First, you've got to turn that great unknown customer into a known customer. And the way you do that is to try to digitize them in some way, so to get them to engage with you, whether that's across email, whether that's on the phone, whether that's with SMS, but turn them into a known user. Then once you've got a known user, you need to start to profile them. You need to understand their transactions, their engagement across channels. So some of the things that Sina was talking about with Fidel helps us to capture those in an integration-free type way, because they're already using their payment device to identify themselves. And through that whole process, if you're asking a customer to go from unknown to known, known to profile to profitable, there needs to be a value exchange, right? And that's not just some points at the end of the transaction. There has to be a reason for a customer to do that, to engage, to lean in throughout their entire customer journey. And as we all know, in the digital age, that customer journey starts at the very beginning every single time someone sits down at their computer and decides, where am I going to buy something? Where is something delivered, right? So there needs to be a value exchange across that whole journey. So I thought, you know, this plan was starting to come together. We were all, we've all known each other actually well before I worked at Cheetah, before Nick worked at Cheetah. I'd met Mike and Sina and Nick previously. And when we were sitting around having this conversation, we came up with an idea of hey, maybe there's an opportunity to actually create loyalty but not necessarily in the way when you think of loyalty of Tesco and Clubcard, a way to create loyalty that helps leverage specifically what was happening in convenience retail, this great surge that convenience retail and local shopping and local merchants are having overall, where people have changed their behaviors. They're shopping a little bit often and in their local areas. Is there a way we can help them capture that information? Because traditionally, convenience retailers, loyalty wasn't based on points. It wasn't based on registration. Loyalty was based on the fact that, well, it's in their name. It's a convenient place to go. So you could walk to your neighborhood shop and buy something. There wasn't a big selection. It wasn't necessarily the cheapest price, but it was so darn convenient that your behavior caused you to go to that shop a lot. So we started kicking around this idea, and we thought we'd have this discussion, and we had enough of a discussion that we decided to have a webinar. So let's talk about this first. And Nick, if I can pick on you first as my colleague, we're talking about turning the great unknown user into a known user. Tell me about gamification. Tell me how gamification is changing people's attitudes of how they register or why they register with a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this concept of gamification has been around for a while, and it's often been linked in some way, shape or form to a form of loyalty as well. But ultimately, it's about that moment to capture someone to take an action. And everybody loves a game of chance. Everybody likes the opportunity to win or be rewarded with something, and believe that there is not just this long distance prize draw, so the grand prize at the end of the tunnel that you might be waiting for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to even hear if you've won, and most of the time people don't win. That whole gamification mechanic, that in that moment you could instantly find out that you have been rewarded or won something. And I think that goes along with how we all live our lives now. Instant gratification, moment marketing, whatever you want to call it, it really resonates well. And so being able to give someone that hook, to be able to give someone that opportunity to partake in something because they think they're immediately going to get a reward from doing that, is really powerful. And we really see that that's resonating at the moment. And certainly from a Cheetah Experiences situation, we've just been adding more and more of these types of different engaging mechanics so that they're appropriate at any time and at any point in the lifetime or the journey. So whether that's part of a full rewards program and you're rewarding people to keep re-engaging, or whether that's driving it as an acquisition tool, it doesn't matter. It still works, and there's some really great conversion statistics we get on anything that has a gamification kind of instant win mechanic behind it. Okay,
that's great. Sina, I'm going to come to you next then. So I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously being able to know what customers purchase is great, but as an old technophobe myself, I hate trying to type in a 16-digit card number on my phone, right? And it seems that it's always repetitive, and I just really, really hope that a website has PayPal so I can just click away. Can you talk a bit about the kind of conversion from the call to action to register a card to customers actually linking their cards? What's your experience been with that?
Absolutely. I think our experience when we set out this hypothesis was that people will link the card because that's what we do. I mean, we were quite biased because obviously we were building this and we wanted it to work. But what we've seen with our clients, especially the early adopters, where card linking was very much in its conceptual state, where people didn't really understand, why do I link my card to this platform? What does that mean? But the overall sort of conversion we've seen from the point that people actually land or receive either a communication via Facebook Messenger or in an email, or they land in an app and they click on that call to action and link the card to the platform, and not only link it but make a first transaction, was around 76%. And that's not our numbers, that's numbers from our client. And so when we saw that, we realized that we were trying to drill down into this and say, how come it's so high? And it all comes down to communication. It all comes down to your point, Nick, that instant gratification. I do this right now because I'm going to get something. And even if that's not a point for me to be participating in a program, or for the customer to actually be part of something that can give them something next time, that gamifies it. And when they do that first transaction and receive that first real-time notification, in the same instant as I tap my phone and the payment gone through, and I get a notification to say, hi, we've just acknowledged this, we've seen that. That's super powerful, and that goes straight into one's intrinsic motivation of doing something. It's beyond, it's very impressive.
Okay, let me stick with you while you got your microphone open. So it sounds great. Does this work with the Fidel solution? Work with the new ways to pay? So Google Pay, Apple Pay, using your phone?
It does. It most certainly does. So given that we sit on top of Visa, Mastercard, American Express's rail, we see the transactions of any linked payment card. And so if we would have gone with the merchant acquirer, the loan card number would be tokenized at that level, and we wouldn't have visibility, or we would have to be integrated in all merchant acquirers to see that. We see any sort of Google Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay transactions, as long as the card is linked initially. I personally only pay with Apple Pay because it's so convenient. But yeah, those transactions spotted.
Yeah, they used to say a man never always left his home with his watch, his wallet, and his keys. Right now, it's just a phone. You know, on my phone, I feel naked.
No.
And Mike, as my fellow veteran in the veterans a polite way to say old may I in the loyalty space. Tell me, what's your thoughts on, loyalty? People cringe, and especially in times where margins are tight and they feel customers aren't loyal. Is this the right place for a marketing director to invest their budget in coming up with some sort of loyalty program or customer engagement program?
Definitely, and I mean, at the last recession we had, which isn't too long ago, there was a real big swing to loyalty, because if you think about it, if you strip everything away, the last competitive advantage you have, or the best competitive advantage you have, is knowing your customer. So as you mentioned, Andy, going from the unknown to the known, once you know who that customer is, you can, one, make sure they're coming back to your business, that you haven't lost them, that you have some way to engage with them. Because if you don't have that, really you're relying on acquisition all the time, and you're fighting a battle to acquire. And there's always the stats around how much it costs to acquire a new customer than hold on to the existing one. We have to work harder to hold on to them now, because through COVID, things have changed. They've tried other shops, etc., tried other brands that they may not have normally used. But it's getting harder and harder to acquire customers. So the most important thing is your competition can never copy or get access to your database of customers. They may be able to copy everything else you do. So that's why I think it's so important to build a loyalty proposition for your customers now. Okay, great. And I think, because what we want to do is we want to kind of present our idea to the audience, then leave enough time for some Q&A from the people that participate in the webinar. So Mike, I'm going to stay with you. If we can go into our presentation that we've jointly put together, but we've nominated you to deliver.
Thank you.
You want to try to share your screen again? Shall I just drive? Would you like me to just drive again? Would it just be easier? Because I've got it. Well, let me just try one more time and see.
Yeah, I think he's got it this time. There you go.
He's pressed the right button. Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll leave the video on as well, and let me try and share. If I've got any problems, please tell me. So what I'm going to talk to you is a passion point for me, really, is retail. So I love retail, and what we did, as Andy said, is we talked about convenience retail particularly. So we wanted to say, how could we, what's the challenges that convenience retail has with implementing a loyalty program? And in reality, it's the same challenges that any retailer or any brand has, but we just want to specifically talk about convenience retail. And one thing that's very clear to me, and I love doing this is, again, a passion point for me, is I love visiting stores. And the store experience has never been better, particularly in convenience retail. I think if you go around stores, all the brands on the high street have found different ways to do it. They've found different ways to impress the customer and engage the customer through health, through wellness, through layouts, through store footfall. The days of just being a planogram that you landed in a store and that was the range you put into that store based on return per square foot are gone. It's really now about creating an experience within the store. And when I was locked down, I was locked down in my own hometown, which is a pretty small town in the west of Ireland, if you haven't picked up on the accent yet. And what was interesting for me is there's 5,500 people in my hometown. And I went onto Google Maps and I saw within a 3 square kilometer area of the town, there's 9 different convenience stores. So what a challenge that is. You have 9 stores competing for 5,500 people. And they're all like your Spars and Mace and Londis and brands like that I'm looking at when I look at this. So it's a very competitive market. So you've invested heavily as a company in the experience point of view. The competition has never got any higher. And it's also, I feel, coming harder and harder to get that competitive advantage. You know, in the past you had hero categories, or you did something on the assortment, or price and availability and staff were a real competitive advantage. But I think that competitive advantage is being eaten away all the time. And back to that point I was making with Andy when we were having that conversation, it's down to a lot of the factors that you're able to copy what the competitors are doing quickly, and it's very hard to get a uniqueness. And one thing, I did this survey a long time ago. I used to work in Nielsen, a market research company, and we surveyed a couple of retailers, convenience retailers at the time, on the high street. And I was stuck in my mind, and I thought I'd share it with you again, because some days when you're feeling negative, there's always a positive thing you can look at. And we saw that only 1 out of 10 people that passed by the store visited the store. And obviously you need to be on a mission to go into a store. You're just not going to pass by it for the sake of passing by it, for going in. But still, it means 9 out of 10 people pass by your store. And that's really the challenge for loyalty, because when you see a customer base, what you really should be aiming in your strategy is, can I develop something for my loyal customers that will encourage them to come into my store and not go to the competitors? 9 stores within 3 kilometers of each other. I am probably going to go to one of those stores today. It wouldn't be too difficult to pass one by, but how am I going to make sure that happens? And that's the core of the challenge we have with convenience retail, because I don't think we've cracked it at this stage. And as I say, we've come to a concept that we think may work. The other thing, as technology, I can't help not touching on technology. I actually used to think Blockbusters was a good experience as a customer, to go and browse the shelves of Blockbusters to see what videos were out there. But we did see Netflix coming in and other things that have been the curse of some high street brands. And when I was in Chicago last year, I visited the Amazon Go store, which was basically a convenience retail outlet. A fantastic experience, as in getting in and out without having to take out my wallet or payment. And I went through the Apple payment, and I bought a bagel and an orange juice and a power cable, as you can see there on the left. But is that the real issue? Should we be all focused on technology? I think we should be making everything as frictionless as possible. I think we should be making it as easy to get the data as possible. But let's not 100% focus on that. I think what we need to do when we're talking about convenience retail is we need to think about emotional engagement. And it's interesting, I picked up this article because I didn't want it to be all coming from myself on this, but it was 7 important factors that will shape the future of convenience retail. It was a well-written article about different things and a lot of the stuff you'd expect to hear. But what it did say to me, and it's something that I believed in, I believe in any brand that we talk to when it comes to loyalty, is advanced programs will emerge. And by that, it means moving away from the points to discount programs. And they, in a sense, frustrate me a little bit today, because I think they only ever reward with a discount. And that doesn't really create an engagement, which will emotionally connect you with your consumer. So what they're appealing, programs now need to appeal to the emotional side of the customer through enjoyable experiences. And luckily for us in TLC, there is a hidden agenda here. Of course, we have the enjoyable experiences, but it's not just because of that, it's because it's something I really believe. We really need to understand the customer, create a reward content, or create a message, an umbrella message that says why I should be in this loyalty program. Not just logically I join it because I'm going to get a discount every time I shop, but emotionally I join it. This customer understands me, this brand understands me, they're giving me something that makes my life better. And most importantly, we have to remember it has to be on brand. So we can't be doing anything that's off brand. And I think why loyalty has failed in this space, and I think it's okay to say failed in convenience, because I have implemented 2 convenience loyalty programs maybe 7-8 years ago that failed. We tested them. The results would say failure. And I think it's because we brought that traditional approach and that old-fashioned anecdote of a square peg in a round hole. Because the traditional retail shop in a supermarket was heavy basket, heavily weighted to a high basket spend. So the discount increased quickly, where the convenience, not just the convenience of the speed in the store, but your frequency may be high, but your average spend may be low. So when you look at what you get back, and a customer is not silly, they can figure out, I spent £2 today, I got 2p back. That doesn't feel like a good value exchange. So we had to think differently. And this is where I'm back to this real feel that it's about understanding the lifestyle of the customer today. We did a lot of research on what it feels like to come out of COVID for customers, and they are more authentic. They want to have a better life. They've really rethought about what's important in their lives. So they want to have experiences again, and that experience is outdoor and indoor experiences. So in summary, just to kind of show you where I believe we are, and I really took the supermarket versus convenience, because I think a lot of brands we talk to have both angles within their portfolio of stores. So a supermarket loyalty program is about points, but back to what Nick said at the beginning, convenience loyalty is about instant reward. That's what really, if you look at successful programs, it's about the instant reward of that. Supermarket loyalty is really about stretch and spend. It's all about making sure you engage customers to try and get them to buy other products to increase their basket spend. In convenience retail, the average spend stays the same all the time. So it's about frequency. It's about those 1 in 9 customers that don't come into your store but go to another store. How do we get them back? Supermarkets obviously plan to a certain extent, where convenience is impulse. And I think a supermarket is a functional place. You are thinking about tonight's meal in a lot more detail. You're planning you're mixing your basket with the washing up liquid and the fruit and whatever else, the confectionery. Where in convenience, you are going in for maybe something you're doing tonight, you want to get a meal tonight, that could be a fun occasion. So let's encourage that occasion. So when you're coming into a convenience retailer to shop for an occasion, maybe it's lunch, maybe it's an evening snack, maybe it's a meal, whatever that is, encourage that behavior through what you're providing, either in the content, so it could be recipes, or a free movie download that night if you're going home with a pizza and a bottle of wine. We've done this. We've done this for a brand in France called Franprix. If you have been in that market, they're basically Paris-based retailer, and they had a very much a cashback type model, which again I am not against, but I think it has to have something that adds a little bit more emotion to it. So what we brought in was cashback plus experiences, and from that it was more personalized as well. So it's things like a free yoga class, a free health and wellness. So if you're a brand, and again, I think if you're a convenience retailer, you're focused very much today on a healthy offering. So if you're giving someone a healthy offering, healthy salads, healthy snacks, then why not offer them a 1-month mindfulness app as the reward instead of 5p or 10p or 50p back, or a free yoga class online, or things like that. And that's what's really worked in that French case study for us. The re-engagement of the program and the positioning and the need for a program has really worked. So the idea really we wanted to play around with for this conversation, just to have a bit of fun, is fun back. So it's basically the principle of every time you shop, you get some fun back. And those images are showing a scamp of a roller coaster or a movie or a pizza, or going out for a night having some Chinese. And that's just to give you some examples of what that may look like. Fun back. You can claim your fun back. And that really was something we wanted to share today as a conversation. I think, Nick, you want to take it over from here and just show you how something like that could be implemented. Is that right?
Sure, yeah. Perfect.
Absolutely,
If you stop
Mike.
sharing. Thank you. So exactly as Mike said, we've just mapped out a bit of a journey here, and you saw from the slide before, the great poster, the call to action to come and take part. And the way to initiate that taking part, capturing someone as they're entering the store or while they're queuing, whatever it might be, would be the option of the QR code. It's just worth touching on very quickly with the QR code. Definitely had a bad rep in the past. COVID has definitely changed that. That just proves to all of us there's a right time and a right place for everybody. You never know when the market will shift towards you. Technology-wise, it's easier than ever to do it on your camera, to click that and to be taken straight through to a web page with your smartphone. So the concept here, we've just mocked up a few slides to take you through a journey here, would be that the consumer would be in store and they would scan their QR code on the poster within store. And they'd be immediately taken to a landing page that is very clear that you're just trying to capture the attention to do something with an immediate chance to win. So, take part in this for a chance to win, great prizes like title subscriptions, Rakuten Film, online yoga, as Mike said, and then you gain fun back rewards as you spend and get something back for shopping locally. Play now, just take part, have that moment and get a chance to immediately participate. So we immediately ask them to just give their name and their email address and maybe a phone number, and obviously sign up to the terms and conditions. At this point here, you could ask them something additional. It could immediately start to ask them something about a preference towards their desires and their motivations, maybe like health. But actually, the more seamless that you can make it and the quick that you can make it as a sign up, the better. So we want someone to immediately get a chance to scratch away and see if they've won. Now in our story here, they scratch away, and unfortunately they weren't a winner today, but they're immediately encouraged to take the next step, which is to sign up their card to become part of the program and immediately start to gather up the cashback rewards as well. So they can link the card and participate there, and of course they're then entered into the program. They've been encouraged through the great rewards. And of course, what goes along with this is the marketing that will be an encouragement and understanding of where you are and where your spend is along the way. That would all be part of this journey. And we've skipped forward somewhat here, but let's just say that the consumer knows they've been spending, they've been incentivized and encouraged with the types of rewards on offer. And they've got to the point of the trigger, the first reward, which is triggered at £50 worth of spend in their local store. They're sent a link to log back in and to take part in this particular rewards quiz, if you will. And in this instance here, you're immediately asking them, hey, look, you've triggered the chance for your first reward. Tell us about what you want to do in your free time, working out, moments of zen, popcorn in front of a movie, getting the music on and turning the speakers up, so that you can immediately direct them towards an appropriate reward for them. So rewarding them with what it is that they want, what it is that interests them, to motivate them to actually redeem the reward and to keep taking part to get more rewards as well. So they answer the quiz questions here, and they talked about the fact that they're always working out. So healthy body equals a healthy mind. We're going to offer you some 5 online personal training sessions as a reward to take part in, and they can immediately go and connect for their reward. So at that point there, you've immediately started to segment them with information about their interests and preferences. And of course, what could be supplemented here could be any other type of data capture that might be more relevant for you in your store about maybe people's shopping habits as well. That can always be supplemented too. But obviously, really the draw here is about understanding about what they want out of a rewards program so that they participate in that, because what you're going to give them is something they actually want as well. So as just a recap, as you see that through, you get the landing page, you have that instant moment for someone to take part, to draw them in and to convert them from unknown to known. They participate, they take that chance there and then in store to scratch away and see if they'd won. They don't, they link their card and start building up those that cashback and that detail about their spend. They're then sent the call to action when they've hit the first trigger for a first reward. they tell us about themselves and their interests, so that we give them a reward that is something that they're really interested in and fits with their healthy lifestyle that we're trying to encourage them to take part in, and to be more effectively to be more drawn into the program through their passions. And so this workflow is just one version of this. There are so many different ways that you could add this, at what points you reward people, where the triggers are, what data you're capturing as well. But this is just a flow to show you how this could work.
That's great, Nick. Thanks. So just to recap, everybody. So what we wanted to show in that, right? So one, all of that can happen today, right? But what we did was we put together our three pieces of the puzzle to try to take people through that journey that we were noticing during the COVID period. So as Mike was saying, 9 out of 10 customers were walking past your store and not going in. So what's that first hurdle? We don't even have to come in store. A poster that says there's a chance for some instant gratification, just take a picture of a QR code, right? We've gamified that process so that people get a scratch to win. The registration page before the scratch to win is just that little necessary piece of friction, but people have already decided they want a chance to win. If it's a quick, painless registration process, then they've done it, right? They didn't win the scratch to win, but now that they've got the hook that they're interested in what might else be available from your store, we've given them the process to register their card. And every time they hit a certain target, in our case, we said 50 pounds, they're going to get a chance to win one of these rewards. That sign up process with the card, we show just typing in a card number, but it's very easy these days to just take a picture again with your phone and it'll auto fill in the details. So it's a quick process. Now you've gone from unknown to known to profiled. Well, we've got every time they hit that target, it's a chance to ask them a question. So one of the challenges in convenience retail and local store retail is the fact that the point of sale estate a lot of times is very disparate. You have different systems. You don't have access to data like a big supermarket or hypermarket would. So although it's ideal to look at everybody's individual shopping baskets and behavior, if you at least know how frequently they're shopping and how much they're spending, and then get them to share some other information about their tastes, their preferences, and their lifestyles, then you're building a lot about being able to target your messages across there. So we're creating that value exchange for consumers to share data with you every single time. And then you're giving them something back for trusting you to be able to use that data. So that was our idea. That's a real live idea. So if there's anyone out there that says, oh, I'd love to learn more, then please do contact us. But what we also wanted to do was to use that as a bit of an introduction into this conversation. So we can have a conversation about what we've just presented, or just generally about the topic of loyalty in general. I'd start first because we got a couple into the chat. Guys, if you want to raise your hand on the panel and say who wants to answer this one first, but let me read this question from Rebecca. And she says, what is the dividing line between moment marketing and bot loyalty? Does a reliance on instant gratification create the wrong type of loyalty for a business? So although you're absolutely right, Nick, instant gratification is fantastic. Is that sending the wrong message about the long-term loyalty?
My belief, and I'll pass on to the total loyalty experts here, is that moment is about capturing them and converting them. It's not about the program being based on those moments exactly. It's about taking advantage of that mechanic in that moment to convert them from unknown to known. And of course, at other times, triggering that, perhaps if you feel they haven't participated in the program for long enough or spent at that particular store, you trigger them again in a moment to try and capture them and re-engage them. So it's about the two together. And as you can see from the program, that is just that we're then deepening our relationship with the consumer once we got them in the moment. So from my perspective, it's about both together.
Okay. And I think, although it is great, I mean, absolutely, you've got to go from unknown to known, right? You need that instant gratification is that first step. But I would add to that, as one of the old school loyalty experts, is that needs to continue to happen. We always used to say, and Mike will probably back me up on this, rewards need to be inspirational, aspirational, and attainable, right? So there is a bit of instant gratification, even through it, even if you're a long-term member of Club Card or Nectar, right? You need to look and say, oh, I've got 11,223 points. And if you go onto a website and see the first thing you can redeem for is 200,000 points, you're instantly turned off, right? So there has to be something, there has to be those little carrots that pull you along to follow that stick through the process, right? And you need to identify what those things are for each consumer, right? Mike, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, just to add, Andy, I think you're absolutely right. If we can make a loyalty scheme have a standalone return on investment, then it's not worth doing. So yeah, the model has to reflect the value exchange and that we're getting something. But you can also use discounts and competitions and content. And those are ways that make points of engagement. So it doesn't always have to be the reward, but the reward, as you said, needs to be there. But also, if you're engaging with a customer, we really need to move away from the word loyalty and talk about customer engagement, because that's really what this is about. But yeah, I think it's a fair point that you don't want to give them the habit of just getting stuff always. They have to work for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for everybody out there, like I say this a lot, loyalty is a great word and a bad word. It's a great word because everybody knows what it is, and it's an awful word because everybody thinks they know what it is, right? Which is air miles and points and cashback, right? And as Mike said, just to reinforce it because that's an important one. When you describe loyalty in your business so people don't cringe, I would talk about customer engagement, customer growth, so revenue growth, and customer retention, right? Everybody wants all three of those measures, right? And the sum of growth of acquisition, growth, and retention is loyalty, right? So if you're doing the right thing for the customers, they will stick around. They will become profitable, retained customers. Sina, we had a question for you. So one of the attendees said, "This looks great, but I've only got a small amount of stores." So does the Fidel solution work for a smaller subset of stores?
Yes, absolutely. We can onboard stores based on the merchant ID. So within this sector, you've got a lot of franchises. So we could onboard maybe 5, 10, 100, 2 stores based on the merchant ID. And then for us, we will have no problem with the size of the stores or size of the location.
Fantastic. And I have another one pop up, Mike. Somebody said you made a great point on the cost of new client acquisition. They agree with you. That's expenses. They're asking, what should be the budget split between spending money on acquisition and spending money on retention?
Really good question. It's too complicated to give a straightforward answer. And that's not dodging the question, although it does sound like I'm dodging the question. but I think the most important thing is I'd look at the marketing budget, and I think there's enough marketing budget to use on retention sometimes, because once you put in a loyalty program, you can really focus on your customers. So I think there's part of it that says use your marketing budget more efficiently through a loyalty program, rather than just trying to acquire all the time. And if you do a good job on refer a friend, and even something we did in the US recently, which was very interesting, not for a retail brand, but we offered everyone could join the loyalty program. Just the more you spend, the more rewards you get. This was for non-customers of this brand. So it was a non-customer brand. So it becomes an acquisition tool for you as well. So really a question I'd love to take up separately, just because it's too complicated to go for in 5 minutes left in this call.
Okay.
But thanks for the question.
Sure. So if anybody has a question, if you want to put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'm looking on there. If you actually want to talk and show us your video from wherever you are listening to us, please let us know. I'd love to have some other voices on here besides the 4 of ours. Somebody asked a question just about, can we share some success stories? Does anybody want to brag about something that they've seen because of their company and their tools and their software where we've seen some great success?
I mean, I can 2 minutes. So one thing for us, when we launched the Into Shopping Center program, and they start looking at the average spend between a account-linked loyalty member versus the average spend for a general Into shopper, it was a 47% increase for someone who was participating in the loyalty program, and that's, I think it's a fantastic success story. I mean, that's just one quick snippet.
Okay, fantastic. And we've got clients too. So we've got at least a big supermarket, hypermarket chain that created a program, and I love it. When I said I don't like the word loyalty, they do not call it a loyalty program. It's their customer program, right? What is it that is making the life of their customers easier and better. And what they did was be able to use tools from Cheetah for machine learning to match offers to customers based on behavior. So people knew the reason that they became a digital customer, the reason they downloaded the app, and the reason that they used their phone as a payment device and did it every time was because they were getting the best price on the things that they already bought today if they were a member of the program, right? So I always say, you would have never thought 10 years ago that I would pay 79 pounds a year to be part of a loyalty program, but I'm a happy member of Amazon Prime because the value exchange and the reason to do it is very simple for me to calculate, right? Do I want free next day delivery every time I order something from Amazon? And I looked at how many times we were using it, and I figured out the break-even point was about 20 deliveries a year. And then after that, we're beating the house, using the gambling term, right? Because we're getting free deliveries, 4, 5, 6 times a week from Amazon, and it absolutely was worth the money. But what Amazon done was very clever was they then have added extra benefits to that go beyond just the free one-day delivery. So if there was ever a challenge to Amazon, things like Amazon Prime now that we use for movies, and I use to watch the tennis, and some of the other services that I don't use, but the kids use around gaming things, they're all part of the package, right? And they've created a fantastic value exchange and a great proposition that's easy for me to understand, and it's made me loyal. All right, good. Anyone else have any questions they want to put into the chat or get across from us? I mean, other than that, I think that all of you either have our details or that there will be some communication from the retail bulletin back out to everyone who attended today. So feel free to ask us individually questions or come back to me and we can route them across the panel. But I'll give you one more second to wave your hand or say something. Everybody's still a bit asleep this morning. Well, if that's it, listen, thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. We hope this was interesting and created some questions within the business. And I think all of us would love to have a conversation with you. So get in touch, let us know. But for now, stay loyal and stay safe.
Perfect.
We'll say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank